Welcome to Judicial Dollars and Cents, brought to you by Anders Virtual CFO Services team from all across the United States. I'm John Scott, and in each episode, we'll shine a light on the financial side of the legal world, turning law firm numbers into impact-driven stories. From taxes and profitability to practice growth and leadership, we sit down with law firm innovators who are shaping the future of the profession. Let's dive in, right here on Judicial Dollars and Cents. Hey, welcome back to Judicial Dollars and Cents, the podcast where we dive into the business side of running a law firm. I'm John Scott with Anders Virtual CFO Services, and each week we talk with industry experts who help law firm leaders think differently about growth, profitability, and performance so they can build practices that last. Today we welcome Mark David Shirian. Mark is the founding member and principal attorney of Mark David Shirian P.C., a Manhattan-based litigation firm known for high-profile results in both federal and state court. Mark has obtained multiple seven-figure settlements and been named one of National Trial Lawyers' top 40 under 40, a distinction awarded to elite trial attorneys. His practice spans personal injury, employment discrimination and harassment, sports and entertainment law, and complex litigation matters. Mark has taken on Fortune 500 companies, school systems, and governmental entities, including securing a $1.5 million recovery under the Child Victim Act. And his work has been featured on multiple media outlets. Before launching his firm in 2016, Mark was a collegiate wrestler and high school coach, experiences that he credits for shaping his competitive mindset, strategic leadership, and relentless advocacy. Mark, welcome to the show.
John, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Hey, I love your background, and how did you get from the wrestling mat to the courtroom? Can you tell us your origin story?
I'm happy to. So I'm originally from New York City. I've actually never left New York. We lived in Queens for a bit, and then when I was 2 years old, my family moved to Long Island. We bought a house on Long Island. I was about 2 years old, and I grew up in Great Neck, which, if you're familiar with The Great Gatsby, that's West Egg in The Great Gatsby. That's right outside of the New York City lines. And, I had a very nice upbringing. Both my parents worked. They were very hardworking people. I was always into sports. I always kept myself busy. I was on the football team in high school. I was on the wrestling team in high school. I played baseball. But I'll tell you, it was while I was in health class in high school where we watched the movie Philadelphia with Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington. And when I had watched this movie, I was just completely taken aback and inspired by the advocacy of both of these characters and the compassion that they both had for each other and for the judicial system. And it just inspired me to no end. And after watching this movie in high school, I just felt like this is something, pursuing law, going to law school was something that I needed to do. And I ended up going to NYU. I was on the wrestling team at NYU. And then I went to New York Law School right after that. But I'll tell you, John, litigation is very much like wrestling. And if you think about it, we were talking about this before, but think about it. Litigation, you have two sides. You're out there alone. You also have a referee who's more like a judge than anything else. And you got to be quick on your feet. If you don't walk in prepared, you're probably going to lose. And you have to be tenacious. And you can't just give up when things get rough. So I've learned a lot. Obviously, I was a wrestler in middle school, high school. I wrestled at NYU. And then for 6 years, I was the head wrestling coach at a private school on Long Island, which was a great experience. But I had to stop because I was starting my firm. But that's how it kind of evolved. Litigation was just very natural for me because I was a wrestler growing up.
I love the fact that you've equated wrestling to law, and you're exactly right. The judge is the referee, and as we talked on the pre-call, three of my boys wrestled in middle school, and I wrestled a little bit in high school. But I hung out with a bunch of wrestlers, and it's just a great discipline. You're part of a team, but it really is your individual effort and what you put into it. Now, I wrestled at 128 in high school, but by the end of the season, when everyone else was cutting weight, I was in the 130s. I mean, I was eating ice cream bars afterwards. So my wrestling career lasted just a couple of years. Hey, so you came right out and started your own firm. Is that correct?
So I had passed the bar on the first try, and I was working at a firm. My first job out of law school was at a personal injury law firm in Flushing, Queens. It was mostly a Korean focused client law firm. I learned a ton, but that was like the first job I was able to get out of law school. And I would go to court. I would have 5 compliance conferences on. I learned a lot. It helped me learn my way around the courtroom, this job. But what I didn't like about the job was that I wasn't able to communicate with a lot of these clients because they didn't speak English. They were Korean, or they just didn't understand English. So I was only there for 8 months. It was a great experience, but I ended up getting a job at a boutique litigation firm in Manhattan called Lynch Rowan. They used to do a lot of work for Sears, Kmart, if you remember those entities. Now they're all,
Oh, man.
but they were a pretty, in its heyday, it was started in the 80s by Thomas Lynch and Mark Rowan, my former bosses, who I really admire and learned so much from, and I'm still in touch with. But I ended up going to this firm. It was 4 partners. I was the only associate. It was a boutique litigation firm. They did a lot of defense work, but they knew that I was more of a plaintiffs focused attorney. And even at my interview, they were like, if you get this job, we would love to, you could bring in plaintiffs cases. We'll help you. We'll finance the cases, because they were more of a boutique firm. So it was a great fit. The pay wasn't great, but it motivated me to bring in cases. And, and I would tell any young lawyer, because now I don't know if people are going to court as much as they used to, but before COVID, I was going to court every day. And, you dress nicely, you go to court, you look presentable. You never know who you meet, whether it's other lawyers or people that are looking for lawyers. People don't realize, but a lot of people just show up to the courts without a lawyer, and they ask questions. I think as long as you get your name out there and you're meeting people, it could really, if you're looking to build a book of business, it can go very far. But I was at this firm for a little over 2 years. And it got to a point where I was bringing in cases. I was bringing in a lot of sexual harassment cases and injury cases. And I had about $15,000 to my name uh, based on some of the cases that I brought in. I only got a third of what I was able to even bring in. So 33 cents on every dollar that I brought in, I got. And with $15,000, I went out and started my own firm in August of 2016. So this August will be 10 years I've had my own firm.
Well, that's a big motivation when you know that you can bring in the cases, you can handle the work, and you want to get more of the rewards. So you went out and struck out on your own. How big are you today?
Right now we're about 6. So I started the firm almost 10 years ago. 5 years ago, my brother, who's also an attorney, Sean Shirian, he started working with me. And then we have a lot of virtual staff. We have a virtual receptionist, Regine, who's doing a great job. We have Gianella, who's a virtual paralegal for us. She's been with us for 2.5 years. I can't believe it. And we have a marketing manager as well. So I would say a group of six right now, and we have about 180 active cases in the pipeline.
That's great. I think the pandemic went a long way to teaching all of us that we don't have to be in the same footprint or office to collaborate and get work done.
John, it's very interesting that you say that because think about it. I started the firm in 2016. I had a certain, as you know, it was a different world we were living in 2016. Really different.
Especially where you are.
Yeah, well, right, right. But I had visions of having an office filled with people and culture and, you know, uh, people that I could manage on a day to day. And I just don't think it's like that anymore. There's a way to get work done without people being in the office. And people don't want to come in 5 days a week. So if people don't want to come in 5 days a week, then I guess the virtual staff aspect of it expands your pool of candidates um, with respect to just getting this work done. But this wasn't what I had envisioned, but I think it's the smartest way to get things done, and it really allows you to scale quickly.
You're exactly right. I never thought in a million years that we would be in this world where people are in 25 different states and you can work effectively with them. But the pandemic compressed 5 years worth of remote work learning into about 18 months. And we figured it out. You need less real estate. We struggle, and I think we've overcome it in building culture and collaboration in that our division that does VCFO work is about 80 strong. And so twice a year, we bring everybody together and we spend 3 to 5 days together. Just we do a little bit of work, but we also go out in the evening together so that when you see the person on a Teams or a Zoom call, you remember, oh, their little Joey plays football, and different tidbits about him, so you can build that culture and that collaboration through those events. Hey, I want to talk about AI, and I find that there are two camps of attorneys. Some attorneys are deathly afraid of it. It's going to ruin the profession. And some are embracing it with caution, because we still need the human element. Where do you fall in that? And is your firm using any AI tools?
Absolutely. So at first, I was very scared of it. I didn't understand how it actually worked, and I was very scared of hallucinations and stuff like that. It's been several years of AI, and I can tell you that my office heavily uses AI. Think about it as a plaintiff's personal injury contingency firm. We don't bill hourly. So being as efficient as possible, we can we can help out our clients even more by being even more efficient. For example, a letter to the court. We have so many different templates that we use for that. A letter to the court that would previously take 30 minutes is being done in less than a minute. And, it's been great. I think we are a lot more efficient with respect to evaluating from the very beginning, evaluating cases, drafting up complaints and lawsuits, analyzing responses, putting together discovery demands, putting together mediation memorandums. Yes, I would say we heavily use it, but with caution. Um, so it's been, I think it's been monumental, and if you're not embracing it, very soon you will be left behind, I think.
Well, current and future listeners will hear me say this 100 times. It's going to allow smaller and mid-sized firms to compete with much bigger firms. And we have to be responsible about it, but it's going to move lightning fast and it's going to change every few months. Hey, what case management system do you use to track your cases?
We use CloudLex.
Okay. Does it have any AI features built into it? A lot of the case management companies are coming up with features.
Yeah, not yet. I've asked about it, not yet. But as far as like systems that we are using, I was actually at, I'm sure you're familiar with Mark Lanier down in Texas. So I went to his trial, I guess, seminar in Houston back in June, and his entire presentation for 2 days was about utilizing AI in your practice and during trials. And he was really big on Claude. I had heard of Claude, never really used Claude. Before that I was using Grok, obviously paying for all these subscriptions. But I've been using Claude, and it's been I'm very happy so far with the type of product that's coming out with Claude. So CloudLex doesn't have an AI system yet. I mean, yes, a lot of them are trying to develop one. But here's the thing. This space is changing so quickly that, and I won't mention the names, but the big players out there, the AI players who are trying to get firms to lock in uh, sometimes for a year with their system. Not necessarily, excuse me, not necessarily those systems are compatible with CloudLex, but here's the thing, and I think this is the problem that I have, and I think a lot of other owners have. How are we? I think we're still in the first few innings of this AI transformation. Why would I invest in a system right now when I still don't know what's the better product or a better product for me. So I'm very slow to commit to a certain AI tool until I see how this actually picks up and where it's left off. So
I think that cautious approach is wise, and I'm glad you're open to it. Hey, I want to shift gears a little bit to forecasting. So, in an hourly billing firm, forecasting is easy, right? I have this book of clients, they need work, I can have expected charge hours, it's rate times hours, plus or minus the value that is perceived by the biller, but I can predict that revenue. In your world, with different types of contingent cases, we like to take PI firms and say, okay, we have 5 different types of cases. We can assign values to them. We can assign milestones from intake to adjudication, and then predict when that cash flow is coming in. And we can build these, they seem complex, but they're really not models that will go out 12 weeks, 6 months, and a year to show us when this inventory of cases that we have are going to monetize. You do any of that work on with your case management system or in your finance area?
not through my case management system. I'll be very frank. I think my biggest issue up until 7 months ago was not keeping track of these things. I think the mistake that I made, I don't think in any, listen, if you want to learn about yourself, start a business in a big city, and you'll learn what you need to work on, and you'll learn what you're good at and what you're not good at, and personality and all that type of development you'll figure out. But I think with me, I was too focused on the money coming in, the cases coming in rather.
Right.
I was focused on, I need to bring in cases to work on. And fortunately, yes, it was great. I started the firm with $15,000, 0 cases, and now I've built it up to a pipeline of 180 cases. And yeah, that doesn't come overnight. Nobody handed that to me. That was a lot of hustling and being out there and telling people about what I do. And I still do all that, but not to the same extent that I did starting out when, you're not, think about it. You go from getting paid every other week to, you're waiting for these cases to hit. So I would say in the last 6 months, to your point, and I think that point as far as tracking those numbers and predicting what type of money you're going to come in, that's going to come in later on, is so important. Those type of KPIs that we are now implementing, not through our case management system, but I think just starting out with your profit margin. figuring out what your profit margins have been for the last few years. Or maybe we're in 2026 now, but going back to 2021 to 2023, each year, how much total cases did you settle? And what were the attorney's fees for those years? And you see how it has increased in those 3 years. And I think that gives you a nice bedrock of figuring out how you are progressing as far as the amount of cases you're settling and the amount of attorney's fees that you are recovering. Because look, I have a lot of my cases are actually referrals from other attorneys. And those other attorneys, as long as there's a joint participation clause in the retainer and the client knows about it, they're entitled to a referral fee. Now, that could make more sense for someone that doesn't want to spend a lot of money on advertising that they may or may not get back. So figuring those numbers out, because just because you settled a lot of cases doesn't mean the revenue is going to be that high because you are paying referral fees. So yes, very, very important. And we are implementing these type of KPIs in the future so we can have a much better sense of predicting money coming in. Because look, when you're looking to hire, when you're looking to scale and grow, you need to know the type of money that's coming in. And who cares about how much you made last year or 2 years ago? So that's where my mindset has shifted, completely opposite to what you just said. I was more focused on cases coming into the firm than when those cases are going to hit and when those cases are going to settle. But at the end of the day, you really need both, quite frankly.
Yeah, and then finding the cases is just the first half. Then somebody's got to do the work and get the fees in the door. I think it starts foundationally with what we call profit-focused accounting, and the first pillar of that is cash. How much cash do you need to retain inside your business to pay the bills, to pay your staff, to pay the rent? And we have a general rule of thumb. It's between 10 and 30% of your expected revenue in the next 12 months. Now, those goalposts are really a factor of risk. If you're an hourly billing firm with A clients that pay by return mail, you're closer to that 10% number. But as a PI firm with ups and downs in the cases and the settlements that are coming in, and the fact that you're financing all the prepaid case costs, you probably need closer to that 30% number. And then once you have that, once you've built up to that target, then the next dollar that comes in is available for distribution to the ownership group, which is a good feeling. And so many attorneys in undergrad, I don't know what your undergraduate degree was in, but it wasn't accounting or finance. And you certainly didn't get it in law school. And the reality is you're running a business for profit. And so when you start to pay attention to the data and you have good current financial information, then you can really get a business that is profitable and pays off. You guys are great lawyers. You have a great reputation. Let's get the rewards from it as well. Hey, I want to shift gears. You're on the news a lot. Did that generate a significant amount of business for you? I guess it keeps your name piece top of mind.
That's a great question. Thank you for bringing that up. I've been blessed. Because there are lawyers, good lawyers out there that, they've maybe been in the press once, if any. And I've been blessed to attract newsworthy cases that people want to talk about. And I think it's also a credit to my firm wanting to take on these tough cases, wanting to take on big defendants and not being scared of that fight and finding a way to bring justice to our clients. Now, look, being in the press is there are two sides to it, because you could be in the press and you look at the comment section and people are really into your case. They're really supporting your client and all that. And then you have other people who don't think so much of the case. And it makes you, it's interesting because it's like a jury pool. Some jurors are going to be into your case. Some aren't. It is a good way to amplify your client's, issue to a broader to society. and it's a good litmus test to figure out how people are responding to your client's situation and to garner sympathy. And if you're dealing with a big defendant and they see that how it's impacting um, people's sentiments about what happened, that could drive up a settlement. But I'll tell you, as far as garnering cases, yes, it does give you an authority in your field, but there are repeat client, not repeat clients, but people will have an issue. They'll Google it, they'll look it up, and then the article will come up. Wow, this attorney sued a daycare center. This attorney sued for sexual harassment. This attorney sued this company. I had a very similar issue with that company right now, and he's in New York. I'm going to reach out to him because I saw that he handled that case. So that's where the press really comes into play. And I also think attorneys should do a much better job of being out in the press. I don't think you do a better job of that. I've always had connections with people in the press because they need you probably more than you need them.
And
And
use the content, right?
they do need the content. And it's with respect to, so on Instagram, I'm the millennial lawyer. And, every time I'm in the press, I'll screenshot the article, I'll put it on a story or make it a post. And people, it really, it elevates how people think about you and your practice. And it is newsworthy. They're not going to do an article about a rear end car accident, but that's where and you talk about cash flow. And I would like to just touch upon, we're a hybrid. We do a lot of personal injury, 75%, but I would say the other 25%, we do a lot of employment discrimination, a lot of civil rights. And in those realms, you see more of the newsworthy cases. That's where, and that has helped the PI part of what we do. And obviously we've had newsworthy PI cases as well. It's interesting with the press though, I'll tell you, there are cases that I had where my clients have said to me, I don't want you going to the press with this.
Wow.
Like, okay, we're not, that's fine. We're not. Or I'll have clients, I don't even think it's press worthy at all, and neither do they. And we'll just file it without any sort of press at all. And I'll have my contacts at the press reach out to me kind of upset. Like, why didn't you tell us about this? I didn't know it was newsworthy or press worthy. But one last point about being in the press. Yes, it has garnered cases, but I'll tell you what's even more important that drives up the value of these cases is you don't know who will have evidence on your case. If the case is in the press and they know you're the attorney for that party, you don't know who will reach out to you. That has happened many, many times where former employees or people that know the players, defendants that we're dealing with, they'll reach out and say, I once had a situation where someone called me and was like, I was waiting for someone to file a lawsuit against these people. I'm surprised no one ever brought a lawsuit against these people. And this is what I have on this with respect.
That's awesome. That could be very helpful.
That's where the press comes in. Yeah.
So I guess I have two thoughts on the press. I mean, litigators are always on stage. I mean, that's what you train to do, and you're always storytelling and trying to persuade. And there is no bad press, right? I mean, if you're out there talking, people know your name and they know what you do, and you can't be harmful. That's awesome. Hey, before we wrap up, I want to talk about something we talked about on the pre-call, and I had no knowledge of this, but tell us who the Heisman Trophy is modeled after and what university they came from.
Okay. Well,
And I don't think a lot of people are going to know this unless they went to this school.
Well, on the pre-call, you asked me who my favorite football team was, college football team, and that's how we started talking about this. But the Heisman Trophy is actually modeled after Edward Smith, class of 1936 at NYU. And I think he played in the NFL with the Redskins and the Packers. And he was inducted into the NYU Hall of Fame in 1983. But yeah, the
Who knew? I guess that's why it's at the New York Athletic Club, right?
what the
Is that where they award it? The
I
trophy?
think they award the Heisman Trophy. It's somewhere in Midtown. It's in one of the hotels in Midtown. I don't think it's at the AC. I've actually wrestled at the Athletic Club. Um, Funny fact, Mickey Mantle lived right there when he played for the Yankees, where the Athletic Club is.
Oh, wow.
So he lived right there. But no, yeah, that's where I went to school. I wrestled at NYU. So yeah.
Well, if that ever comes up on a trivia question, I will now know the answer. I appreciate it.
You didn't know that.
Hey, before we wrap up, Mark, what's the best way for folks to get a hold of you?
I would say on Instagram, they could reach out to me at the Millennial Lawyer, or you could go on my website, ShirianPC.com, or you could give us a call at 212-931-6530.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you all for tuning in to Judicial Dollars and Cents. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps us grow and ensures you never miss an episode. We'll see you next time on Judicial Dollars and Cents. Thanks for joining us on Judicial Dollars and Cents, presented by Anders Virtual CFO Services. If you found value in today's conversation, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. To learn more about how Anders helps law firms strengthen their financial foundations and drive growth, visit anderscpa.com. Until next time, keep making smart decisions that make perfect sense.